right. I'm re-releasing a video, and it's a video that I did with Barry Croft from Delaware, who is in the news right now for a potential kidnapping plot of Governor Gretchen Whitmer. I want to be clear in the beginning because I've had a whole bunch of negative feedback that, one, I do not align myself with anybody who believes in causing bodily harm to anybody. And two, yeah, I just don't. So I want to give some background really quick, and then I'll replay this interview that I had with Barry Croft, I believe in August, or it might have been July. So based on the criminal indictment of Barry Croft, and the Wolverine Watchmen and the Militia and the kidnapping plot, this was all happening during that time, which I was unaware of. So I want to give a little bit of background as far as my relationship with Barry Croft, and that is that I spoke to him once before the show, which was an introduction through somebody else under the guise or disguise or whatever you want to call it of the 3% movement or constitutionalism, et cetera, et cetera. And then we did the show, and then I had one further conversation with Barry and 4 other people based on some digital assets that they wanted us to create for them. During that conversation, I want to put some stuff out there, and I want to put some stuff to bed. One is they are not far right or far left or whatever you want to call it. They are, now we know that they are anarchists, that they believe in overthrowing the government or causing bodily injury to government officials, which was unknown to me at that time. But I want to touch on a conversation that I had with them while we were talking about creating digital assets for them to create what I thought was a good, solid foundation for a community activist type organization. And during that interview, one of the people and Barry Croft got into an argument, at which point Barry stated that if he and his group of people were at a rally with this other guy and his group of people, and this other guy had a Trump flag, that he would shoot him in the face. Okay, so the reason why I want to bring that to light, and I exited that conversation immediately afterwards because, one, again, I don't condone violence towards anybody, but there's misnomers in the news that these guys are Trump supporters or far right, that they are white supremacists. That is not true. They are anti-government. They are anarchists. They believe in overthrowing a government and installing their own form of government that is minimalist or whatever that is. I don't know. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and let this roll. I'm not supporting them. I am very adamantly opposed to what happened. And I want to make that very clear because I'm getting a lot of feedback, a lot of negative feedback, that guilt by association, that somehow I align with whatever these crazy people's views are. And I want to be real clear in what I say next, because it's important. That if you are somebody who believes that you as a citizen, one should create an action that represents 335 million US Americans, you need to seek mental help, okay? That it is not your job, it is not your right, it is not your position as a United States citizen to take action in representation of 334,999,000 other people. You are not that important. You do not have the right to do that. Okay, you have the right to go to the voting booths, which I encourage everybody to do. You have the right to voice your opinion within a representative democracy, to take action by voting. You are the equivalent of one. You will never be more than one. Okay, so I don't know how to make that more clear. Vote with your passion based on what your interests are. Your interests, your paths are yours, and the extremes need to stop, whether it's Portland or my backyard here in Minneapolis or any of that stuff. You do not have the right to cause damages to to others based on your opinions and feelings of anything. Okay, I can't say that enough. I'm going to go ahead and roll this through. It's roughly a 50-minute video with Barry, again, who I had a one conversation with prior to this interview, and I've had one other conversation after the fact. As soon as he became this violent person, I completely cut ties with him. Don't want to know you, and that's where I stand on this. So enjoy the show, and it's very unfortunate what happened. I do not condone any of what they did. It's disgusting. Enjoy the interview. All right, welcome to the Bradley Bennett Show. This is brought to you by hempstreetcbd.com. Go there, use BBS30 for 30%, a 30% off coupon code for your order, courtesy of us. Thank you. We want to thank them for sponsoring the show. Today we have Barry. We're going to leave last names out of it, from Delaware, and we're going to talk about Barry and what he's doing. And anyways, welcome to the show, Barry.
Hi, thanks for having me, Bradley. I really appreciate it, man.
So tell me, who is Barry? What do you do? What are some of the things that you're passionate about? Give me the 30,000-foot view.
Well, I'm a gentleman from Delaware, single father of 3 daughters that I've had full sole custody of for the last 11 years nearly. Drive truck locally nowadays. I used to be an over-the-road guy. Basically just your everyday Joe. Only I wear a tricorn hat because I feel like we've forgotten our past and our history. The things that compelled men to write beautiful documents and, correspond with each other over things that confronted them from an outside perspective. And I've actually taken the time to learn the history. I've studied the Constitution. So one of the things that I do is educate people on constitutional awareness.
Sure. So let me ask you the disclaimer questions about how long have we known each other, Barry?
We've been personally in contact for about a week and a half now at the most.
Yeah. So I have to get the disclaimers out of the way, because there's always this idea that people are bringing on some, they're trying to support a narrative as a show host, and I'm trying to create this show to give people their own independent voice. So we've known each other about a week and a half, right? Or known of each other. We had our first conversation 2, 3, 4 days ago, whatever that was. Time flies when you're having fun, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I agree.
The idea of bringing you on the show is to give you your platform to share your voice, share your initiative, share your passion. So, I want to be clear that we've never shown up to any type of form or function together. Is that correct?
That's correct.
We've known of each other for about a week and a half. And then we had a conversation a few days ago, and based on that conversation, I wanted to bring you on the show so that you could share your passions, right? Not your vision, but your passions for what you're doing, why you're doing it. Is that all fair?
Yes, sir. That's fair. That's accurate, sir.
All right. So one of the things that I want to talk about is one, what are some of the movements, some of the things that you're doing? What are you doing within your community and your circles in order to, progress what you're passionate about? So let's talk about what you're passionate about, what movements you're a part of, and then how you go about interacting with those groups, or not groups, but movements, to get your passion in the forefront of people's eyes.
Well, I think the most obvious place to go then is the very beginning. About 8.5 years ago, I realized that I was an American patriot. I saw things going on in my country that didn't make any sense. It spurred me to want to learn about how we've gotten off from where we began, because it's been obvious to me over the span of research that I've done in the history that things have taken very direct turns in our history, and it's been very unclear why. There's a lot of, propaganda one way, the other way. There's a lot of things that get spoken, and the reality of the situation is that the victor writes the history as they see fit to write it. So, the winner controls the narrative. The winner controls the media, which in turn publishes the history books, which in turn tells the story as they wanted it told. May not actually be the truth, but it is exactly what they wanted told. And I started finding these things. I started paying a lot of attention to them. Things that didn't make sense. Like, you have a constitution. Once you start learning about the Constitution, you read the preamble, you read all the things that set the Constitution in motion. And one of those things that you find is the territories, the federal government, that federal Constitution pertains to them. It's written at them so that they're not allowed to subvert these things or do any of the things that they're currently doing in this day. So in acknowledging that, I had to see, when did they start doing this, which involved researching the Supreme Courts of the states, because you got to remember, early on, they functioned very independently, sovereignly. You understand? The states had their sovereignty. Remember, it was a republic, okay? A coalition of states band together. Now, in the conception of the federal empire as it exists, that's what I refer to it as. It is an empire. It's self-perpetuating. That's what an empire does. It perpetuates itself.
Sure.
There was a very crisp place where the decision making started to take a turn, which was contrary to Constitution. And one of the ugliest realities is West Virginia. By federal line and federal dictate, a new line was created to favor the people that backed the political sentiment of the North. So they stole territories from Virginia without the consent of the legislature, and they actually formed a boundary around their unconstitutional act. That was the first trespass that I found of the Constitution. And I said, well, darn, that's really crazy. You can steal land from one state based on the political tides. And then I applied it to things that I've seen in this day, like Richmond, Virginia, the rally that they had back in January. You actually had counties in Virginia that were meeting to split from Virginia and move over into the realm of West Virginia because their political views more favored the people in the mountains to the west of Virginia.
Sure.
A lot of the things that are taking place in and around us all stem from these decisions that happened in a very small period of time. In 1854, we had the birth of the Republican Party. Now, in their day, the Republicans were the progressives. Now, the overwhelming rumor I hear from the pulse of the community is that it's the progressive movement that is taking us in this radical direction, this place that we don't want to go. Everybody doesn't want to go there. I'll get back to that in a minute. But I found that these progressives started their party, they ran their candidate, and lo and behold, 6 years after their birth, they put a president in the seat. Now, I looked at the presidency, and if you really research Abraham Lincoln's presidency, you'll find that 4 different times the White House staff removed all the sharp objects in the White House for fear that he might commit suicide. He was a very, very depressed man. And that really struck me as odd that a country of people would vote for a guy so emotionally unhinged in a 6-year period of him stepping on the scene, his party being invented and all that stuff. It really made me look a little deeper. Wait a minute, hold on here. And then I looked at the word Republican itself. Republican, you know, in your Constitution, you're guaranteed a Republican form of government.
Sure.
Well, the political mafia known as the Republican Party that exists today is not by any stretch or reign of the imagination the Republican Party referred to in the Constitution. See, the Republican referred to in the Constitution was a person of the persuasion that a republic was necessary for the greater good of the colonies.
Sure.
In essence, saying that one colony is no better than the other without the ability to band together and assist each other in times of need.
Sure. So let me ask you a question. So, you know, and we can come back to, I mean, there's a whole lot of history. I mean, you and I could talk for, you know, 10 hours, right? About just history. I want to do a 30,000 foot view, right? So,
right.
So Barry, you enlightened yourself to history.
Sure.
Right? And at that point you said, to yourself, maybe, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I have a responsibility. I have a responsibility to support and protect what is true versus what is told. Is that a fair statement?
Oh, absolutely, sir. Yes, sir.
So where did you go next from that point, right? So 8.5 years ago, you said, you know, I don't agree, which you have the right to. I don't agree, and with XYZ, whatever that is. So what happened next?
So I was compelled to I never really paid attention to Facebook. Social media wasn't my thing. I really wasn't a social butterfly. I mean, being a truck driver, I kind of enjoyed my personal space. So I found myself compelled to take part in social media because, you know, that's where you find people who are like you, people who are like-minded. You know, that's the natural gravitation. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So, you know, I went ahead with that, and for a few years I stumbled around in the dark. I belonged to a couple of groups that don't even exist anymore. Just people band together, you know what I mean? And egos usually bust that apart. You know, somebody doesn't agree, so they're so strong in their opinions that they actually sever their correspondence with one another. Sure. And they go their separate ways, and now there's a division. There's now two selections instead of one. And basically, I started to put this all together because if we don't learn from history, we're doomed to repeat it. And I recognized the repetition that was standing out. It was just absolutely right before my very eyes in studying the history of languages and how they came about. It's right there. These are the things that have compelled civilization into where we are today because they keep disbanding from each other as their opinions grow more deferred, and as they grow more adamant about them, they have to take themselves and go elsewhere.
Sure.
We're at a place in time where there's no new continent to go. We can't blast off and find any new space. So we have to deal or fight. That's really where you're at in it all. And it's, if you look at the globe and what's happening all over, I mean, you have people in China with, you know, tasers and umbrellas taking on people with machine guns. I mean, it's evident. It's a repetition of history that I happen to have the opportunity to witness on Earth.
Let's touch on a key word, which is fight. Okay, so the word fight comes in many forms. People can, and one of the things that I'm dedicated to with this show is making people realize that their constitutional rights, you know, the amendments that have been put in place, good, bad, or ugly, whether we agree with them or not, they give people a certain freedoms, right? So now I'm going to ask you the second disclaimer questions, which is, you know, one, whatever groups or movements or whatever you want to call these things, right? You know, the term group, as we discussed, is is a hot word, right? Because as soon as you identify something, say Antifa as a group or three percenters as a group, that immediately allows the legislators to create legislation um, classifying people as domestic terrorists, right?
Yes, sir. That's another form of the language is being changed around you and things like that. And see, I've in all the groups and all the labels and all these things, I've really realized that, it's those labels that have been created that have given birth to the subversion, to the boogeyman under the bed.
Sure.
You know,
Hold on. The questions that I want to ask are: one, are you affiliated with any groups that won't allow other people to join based on their race?
not at all, sir. Not
Okay.
at all.
So when we hear from the Congress subcommittee on domestic terrorism that the three percenters and the Boogaloo Boys and the oath, what do you call them? The oath
Oath keepers.
all of these people, all of these affiliations, they're trying to deem them as domestic terrorists. That's not necessarily true, right? These white supremacist alt-right. I mean, we hear all the terms.
It's not exactly true until you get to some of the specific instances where it has been true. And then you look at the root and the nature of how and why that occurred. Look at Burns, Oregon, the Malheur Refuge. Mm-hmm. Okay. Oath keepers were supposed to be providing the security for those people. There was a collection of people band together of similar mindset, and they all had an initiative that they executed. Well, in the court cases, it was revealed that 33% of those people were actually put there by the federal agencies. Sure. So now it leads me during the course of investigation and realizing the information presented before me that in all these divisions and in all these splits and in all these separations, you look at the actual instance that occurred, whether it be the Patriot movement, whether it be the 3%, the Oath Keepers, you look at what happened, and 9 times out of 10, there was a person that was trying to project people to go further than their comfort zone would permit. People that were trying to instigate violence, people who were trying to push people into something that would give the Senate, like you referred to, the ammunition to go forth with what, they're trying to do.
Absolutely. And that's what I'm trying to expose, right? So, right. So when you make a decision that you're going to participate in a rally, as an example, okay, for whatever group that you're a part of, because I know you're a part of not groups, right, movements or whatever you want to call this.
Well,
right?
See, here's what it is. I've found myself band together with gentlemen who, like you, have an oath to the Constitution to defend it against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Which let's look at that. If it was written in the oath to defend, then it was preconceived that she would not only need defended from enemies foreign, but she would also need defended from any enemies domestically that subvert themselves inside you, call themselves you, and actually make you out to be the bad guy when all you are is the actual person who has the oath to defend the Constitution at heart.
Let's circle back to that, because that's an important topic that I want to cover towards the end of this. All right.
Sure.
I want to kind of bridge the gap here and kind of draw a big picture. So let's assume for a moment, Barry, that you're going to go to wherever you're going to go to, and you're going to hold a rally, let's say right in Delaware. All right. At any
that's the thing. That's not my approach.
Let's just assume I'm going to get hypothetical. All right. I'm trying to draw a picture, right, through hypotheticals without giving definitive stuff, definitive actionable items. So let's assume hypothetically for a moment, Barry, that you decide that you're going to participate in some rally that's being held, okay. Wherever. I think the misnomer out there and the picture that the legislators are trying to paint, which is complete fiction versus reality, is never are you going out there to cause harm, to intentionally inflict harm on others, right?
No,
I think
no.
the message that we're hearing from one side, based out of fear, from what it sounds like. I mean, is that Barry, right? This guy Barry is out there to cause harm because he's a white supremacist, that he's a member of the alt-right, or that blah blah blah, trying to paint people or put these people in buckets to make it more convenient for them to create legislation against whatever that is, or to identify, etc. Does that make sense?
Right. It does. It makes perfect sense, and it's very effective, because what you'll find is that these rallies most of the time are scheduled to be executed to demonstrate against a tyrannical, despotic government. And ultimately, what ends up happening is the flashpoints get added into the equation, the counter protests ensue, and it ends up in a free for all that gets everybody's attention. But it steers everybody's attention away from the real reason why everybody congregated in the first place, was to actually, rally against the despotic government that is trampling the rights of all of its people, not just one shade, culture, religion. All the people in the United States of America's rights are being trampled by a tyrannical government. And that's why these people are rallying. And the opposition is showing up to argue their stance. But the thing that they're upset about is the despotic government, too. So what's happening is all the ends are being pitted against the middle. And it's actually a narrative that's being pushed to show you that we're so out of control that we need someone else to come in and govern us, that we're not enough. We don't have enough militarized police to get a hold of it, when in actuality, when we look at the specific instances, the police show up to a non-combatant's home, blow the front off their house, throw a flashbang grenade, things that aren't even legal to be used against American people by, these unconstitutional forces. If you look in your very constitution, you can't find most of these organizations that are charged with military duties and come to non-combatants and murder them without any accountability. So
now let's
the
go
rallies are scheduled to protest those things, but they really fall by the wayside because the media fans the hatred for one side or the other, and nobody really covers the fact that it's despotic government that brought them all there in the first place.
Well, so let's go back now to the previous part. When I signed my contract to join the army, I took an oath to protect the liberties and freedoms of people, and to fight against, or potentially fight against, enemies, both foreign and domestic.
Yes,
Right.
sir.
And I've had multiple conversations, because there's a lot of I guess bad. I call it bad juju. I don't. There's this bad movement out there that has this belief that it's one against the other, right? So
Right.
I try and dispel that, you know, that misnomer against, the idea that it's people against people. When really what we're seeing, if you took, and I pick on what I call the Twinkies, right? Golden on the outside, creamy on the in the middle.
Right.
Nothing, that come out of their mom's basement, put down their hot pockets. They've never accomplished anything in life, but they want to go fight for something.
Yes.
So, I look at this, and actually, as I look at all of the things that are happening, what I see, my opinion is that we have a lot of people who are divided based on what we see and read. And I told you this joke earlier, and I'm going to leave part of the joke out, but what does the media and and politics have in common, neither lets the truth get in the way of telling a good story, right?
Right.
So, so the idea behind, here's you and me, and let's assume that we're standing side by side, finding common ground, and I think that we have more in common than what people realize. You and I have similar.
Same list. If he signs it, he could have, got him with $3,000, $3,000.
Yeah. See, I come to my man's store every day, right? I have kids. He has kids. We're different colors, but we have the same problems in this country. Our kids get this idea that they're entitled to something that they don't have coming. So when it's just me and him in the store, look, it's a whole store.
Mm-hmm.
When other people walk in here, we go back to a clerk and a patron of the store. But when it's just him and I, and he ain't on the phone and I ain't on the phone, we talk about, yeah, man, these kids are running wild, bro. Now listen, he's of a different persuasion than I am. And see, that's one of the beauties about being from Delaware. I rub shoulders and elbows with every race, creed, culture, and religion out here. It's all out here. I get along with all these people, though none of them, I mean, he's busy right now, or he would be, you know what I mean? He'd be rapping with me because I'm here almost every day. It's not just because I patronize his store. It's because he knows me as a man. He's come in. I've come in, had my kids with me. He's had his kids with him, stuck with him at work. You know what I mean? We feel each other, man. We identify with each other.
You've established common ground.
Right. And the thing of it is, in establishing that common ground, I could drive down the road right now and like there's a host. I mean, it's Consumerville where I live at. There's storefronts everywhere. I mean, it's designed at, yeah, come here, shop with us, shop with us. Whether I go to Wawa, the corner store, 7-Eleven, somewhere corporation, whatever, it's the same guy behind the counter. He's a guy just like me. Might not come from here, but he has the same, he's the same struggles of everyday life that I have. And when we see each other and identify with each other in our personal lives, we interact and it's pleasant. We're not killing each other. We're not fighting. It doesn't even matter what religion I am. He never asked me. He never asked me. He didn't ask me when I walked in the door, hey, what do you identify as? He didn't care. He didn't care.
And that's the point that I'm trying to get at is, what we're seeing, and I'm seeing it from both sides, right? I'm extremely independent. What we're seeing from the media is that you hate him.
Yeah. That's what they say. That's what they want you to believe. They want you to think that we're so close to killing each other, we can't stand each other. But the reality is they're spinning all that. They're perpetuating themselves just like they criminally move their bodies of courts against you. Did you know that a court can't move itself? Did you know that?
Can't move itself how?
It can't move itself. A court has to be moved. See, in order for a court to be convened, there has to be harm done in a real natural law setting. Do you have a copy of the Black's Law Dictionary? I know you do.
Yeah.
Okay, so you understand the reality of the natural progression of how law has evolved over the span of mankind.
Well, and that's a good talking point, right?
Ooh, that's a good talking point, isn't it?
So let's talk for a moment about if you look at the problem.
Sorry, I'm doing a program right now. You know what I mean? And we were just talking about the things that go on in life. 2 packs of Marlboro Red Box.
So if we talk about where we're at currently.
Yeah, 302-300-0405.
So if we talk about where we're at currently and the problems that exist currently,
go ahead.
If we talk about the problems that exist currently, the issues likely go back to the fact that we've been passing social policy that don't represent all, but represent a specific
ruling class that perpetuate themselves, pay for themselves, put their burdens on your tax dollars. Yes, sir. That exactly. Yes, sir.
Or the special interest groups.
Or, yeah, the people that contribute to their delinquency, the people that keep and perpetuate them from, for doing the things that they do, when in actuality, and I'm going to tell you something, it's a very interesting fact that I saw in the last election. Everybody was projecting this good versus evil. There were so many things to steer the narrative. And I really looked at it and examined, and I saw the numbers that the media was putting out.
Mm-hmm.
And it was laughable to me because the media never really puts out anything truth, real, none of that. It's all fake, perpetuated garbage. But when they reported that they set a record in 2016 for voters and it touched 30%, I almost fell out of my chair with laughter because that means 70% don't care about you morons, which by itself says that you do not represent the majority of Americans in this country. So even by their own fictitious and fraudulent reportings, there but by the graces of God, I get a sliver of the truth out of them. And the truth reveals that you are not the Father. You're not our dude, man. We don't even believe in you. There's only 30% of the population that is perpetuating Trump versus Biden. There's only 30% of the population that believe, trust the plan. You know what I mean?
Well,
70%.
Let's get more specific because I love picking on this pussy Ted Wheeler out of Portland.
Right.
And you just gave me the perfect opportunity to pick on him. All right. So this douchebag, Mr. I went out to get tear gassed by the federal police last night because I'm a pussy. When you look at his election, what got him elected into office, there's 654,000 people in Portland. And he won the election in a landslide, but only received 100,000 votes. Right? So I'm looking at him like, I get it. I don't know if you've been to Portland. It's not my favorite place.
Yeah, man, listen, I've been an over the road guy for almost 20 years. I've been everywhere, man. Literally like Johnny Cash. I have been everywhere, man.
So when I was in Portland about 8 years ago, I looked around and I realized that, probably 90% of the people in Portland are drunk by 7 o'clock on any given day because there's a bar on every corner. And they do all this foo-foo beer and all this other bullshit that they do. But anyways, and I'm using bad language, but I actually looked and I said, okay, here's the mayor. Okay, now the mayor's responsibility in any city. Okay, and I'm getting ready to. The mayor's responsibility in every city. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's photo. Responsibility is to protect their citizens. Okay, that's it.
Or more specifically, to maintain the peace in his jurisdiction. Sir.
Exactly. Right. So,
yes, sir.
So I'm sitting there thinking, and I read this article this morning. I was just shaking my head. I said, okay, so this douchebag goes out last night because he wants to stand behind 200 hot pockets, right, or Twinkies or whatever you want to call them, dumbass kids. And now the dumbass kids have their moms out there with them. The moms of Portland are showing up with their 20-year-olds like they do to a job interview to help them protest because they're not even getting that right.
Right.
And Ted, I'm a toolbox Wheeler, shows up because he just wants to know what it feels like to get sprayed with CS gas. So, and he's supporting these. I just don't get it. So I pick on a lot of the time. If you look at my social media posts, I am hitting the mayors and the governors hard, and I don't care who they are.
Well,
right?
see, but I get that, and I understand that, and I dig that pursuit. But in order to get to any mayor's city, you have to travel within the confines and the jurisdictions of the county, which, if you understand the way that the Constitution works, county by county, you elect your sheriff to keep the peace in the jurisdictions of the county. So cities actually have a very funny dynamic of overlapping jurisdiction that should provide twice the peace for the jurisdiction. You have a mayor and you have a sheriff, okay?
Sure.
Now, when both the mayor and the sheriff neglect their responsibility to defend the citizenry from outside attack. Now, outside attack, we have two words that are very funny there. Attack is a funny word because that's a fight synonym. That is a synonym for the abandonment of reasoning, and now we've taken the physical violence to convey our feeling. You know what I mean? So outside attack, where could that come from? Outside, it could come from a neighboring county. It could come from a far off jurisdiction, foreign to, and it could come in many forms. But the reality of the situation is that the mayor and the sheriff have the unique responsibility of defending the peace in that jurisdiction. Now, whoever creates the upheaval, whether it be the federal empire, whether it be the state, whether it be a foreign state, or whether it be Russia, doesn't matter. Both of these two officials who were elected by the minimal votes of the citizenry, as you pointed out, have the responsibility to defend that jurisdiction. They're not doing their job, obviously, are they?
No, and that's my whole point. You know, Lori Lightfoot. I mean, I love picking on Beetlejuice. I love picking on Beetlejuice.
Right.
Here's a lady who told one of her aldermen to shut the fuck up because he didn't know what he was talking about. When all he wanted to do was ask the basic questions of how are we going to defend our neighborhoods, a Hispanic guy. And then she says, well, you know, she has her own personal bodyguard.
Right.
Paid for with tax dollars.
Yes, sir.
So paid for with tax dollars to provide her personal security against a city that she doesn't claim is violent.
Very funny stuff, isn't it?
And she doesn't need anybody's help to defend it. Right?
Do our actions speak louder than our words, sir?
Sure.
That's a logical assertion. Our actions speak louder than our words. So if your actions,
I go back to what's his name? De Blah Blah is what I call him, right? Whatever I call him, De Blah.
DB, whatever the hell. Who can say it? Who even knows who he is?
Who cares? I just call him De Blah Blah, right?
Right.
But you know, I just find it amazing that, you know, the white people push this initiative to paint a Black Lives Matter sign on the street in front of Trump Tower. And I'm not a pro-Trump guy, right?
Right.
Paint on the street Black Lives Matter and then arrest black people for defacing something that the white people paid for to support a cause. You know what I mean? It's like, how
well,
do we need
in reality though, white people didn't pay for that. People of every color paid for that. It came out of tax dollars. It got forged out of budgets for cities. It got cut out of we the people. So all they're doing is destroying things that we've been wrung out and harvested to provide anyway. They're really not destroying any of the substance behind the people who are making these things happen. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's not.
But De Blah Blah is actually paying 60 police officers to guard, right? I mean, it when you look at it from just no political fundamental anything. So who cares who paid for it? Now the taxpayers are paying 60 police officers around the clock to guard something and arresting black people for defacing it.
Well, and see, here's the thing though. You know, it's self-perpetuated violence, and it all steers an agenda of we are not competent to defend ourselves from convulsions within, sir. It all paints that narrative. So in whatever form it manifests, it does not surprise me. And in whatever tactics these mayors and these people that have obviously, I mean, if you just do a financial trace on these people, they're not supposed to have all the money they have. You know, any normal good police officer could go lock them up right now for having money that shouldn't belong to them in their bank account. But
that's
there's good police officers out there, so you know.
That's a different show. I mean, you know,
He said that's a different. Yeah, I get it. But
yeah,
see, and that's the thing. We don't allow ourselves to dance out into the world of liberty and really free fire at the things that are criminal and corrupt about our society. But we have, in the course of this 39 minutes and 43 seconds, ascertained that the people in power and in place are perpetuating events that lead an outside agenda against our country as a whole.
So I'm gonna round this out now, right? Because we just hit the 40 minute mark. Do me a favor and sum up your episode, the last 5 minutes. Use the last 5 minutes to sum up this episode of, if you're talking to right now somebody who is just beat up, they're tired, they're pissed off because they don't feel that that they're being represented, right? That they're not being represented properly. You know, what would you tell somebody who's, I don't know, a 30-year-old, a man, woman, you know, black, brown, white, doesn't matter.
I got you. I think I got it. So I'll take 5 minutes. So at the roughly the 46-minute mark, stop.
Yep.
If I had the opportunity and the year, I would tell all people of all color who identify as Americans, who want a future for their children, their posterity going forward. You know, I'm a Christian. I'll just put it out there. So in my beliefs, I'm a good man, leaves an inheritance for his children and his children's children. That may not necessarily be a material computation. That might be a lifestyle and a demeanor that perpetuates them toward progress in their daily life. So they actually know how to go to bed at a decent hour, get themselves up, maintain themselves. What I would tell every one of you is to start talking to one another outside of social platforms, outside of this media distancing world. I recommend you get with each other in your spaces, in your counties, talk to each other within the counties, and hold the people that are accountable for the peace in your counties and in your jurisdictions, hold them accountable for not giving you peace in your jurisdiction. Hold them accountable for their neglect and their duties. Now, if you all band together within a county, you can bring an effect and you can have the pressure that you desire against the people who are perpetuating the evils against you, that you know they're evidently present in your daily lives. As a county, you can combat this. You can combat this because you have within you people of all walks of life, people of all experiences, people who have looked at oppression, people who have looked at it from a different perspective. You have the full spectrum and full reign of everything at your fingertips to serve yourself and help yourself. Stop believing in the boogeyman. He ain't real. It's a Hollywood play. Notice you don't have horror flicks anymore. It's because your everyday life is a horror flick and the media has perpetuated it. The media makes their money off you paying them attention. If you stop paying them any attention, they'll stop paying each other to advertise to you because you are no longer paying attention. Get away from things outside and external. Grab on to each other close, right where you live at. Get with your neighborhood, man. I mean, it may cost a couple $100, but get a court in your neighborhood, have like 5 people bring grills and just feed people and talk to people. I guarantee you it'll be a good time. The things that will evolve from that. Now, I try to keep the negative influences away. I mean, you will have children, so you don't want public drunken disorderliness. That's a personal responsibility. That's not the government's responsibility to keep you from getting drunk and belligerent in public. That's your responsibility. And if you can't control yourself and contain yourself, you reveal yourself to your people to be somebody who's not trustworthy because you're given to be corrupted by drink. You don't make sound, rational decisions when you drink. That's just a common, it's there. It's natural. It's an assertion. Do things the right way. Don't just demand that somebody be a good person. You take the initiative to be that good person, and I guarantee you it'll rub off on other people. They'll rise to be around you.
Sure.
They'll bring themselves up to be around you. I took that from Biggie Smalls, the rapper. He said, "Excellence is my presence, never tense, never hesitant." And I thought, well, that's an awesome place to be. How do you attain that? Superior knowledge, wisdom, experience, a culmination of intelligence. Pour it together, never tense, never hesitant. And guess what? I'm a truck driver, but excellence is my presence, sir.
So let me see if I understand this message right. Get to know your neighbor, get to like your neighbor, find common ground, create common initiatives, progress those initiatives as a group or a movement, if you want to call it, right?
Whatever free people choose to call themselves, by all means, liberty, do it.
Being sarcastic, right?
Oh, yes, sir.
I go back to the, because God forbid, one, and I think you hit on an important topic, and this is important that, divided we will always fall, right?
E pluribus unum, sir.
Right.
Out of many, one.
Yeah. So united we stand, divided we will always fall. Let's get back to the basics where we get to know our neighbor, love our neighbor, create common ground, and do great things. Is that
it, sir? That's it, sir. Be the greatness you aspire to.
Absolutely.
Be it. You want to live the dream? Do it. Go live the dream. If you just be a good person, people will perpetuate you and elevate you to a place you never even knew possible, man. They'll people you don't know will walk up to you and hug you. They'll want to do things for you. You'll be in the presence of men that every time they know you're going to be in each other's company, they bring you a gift, man.
Mm-hmm.
You feel humbled before God when that happens, man. You're like, I'm just this little dude, man. I'm a little guy. I don't mean more than anybody else. My life doesn't matter more than anybody else. But
isn't that funny?
But it could matter as much as everybody else's if I live in the hearts and the minds of the people, sir.
Sure.
It's an idea.
I want to cut this short because we got intros and outros and all this other stuff. But Barry, I want to tell you I appreciate having you on the show, and we're going to do some more of these with more specific things where we're talking about current issues. Thought it was important to get your voice out, do a 30,000-foot view, and let's build common ground, right? Two dudes, having a good time and talking about great shit. So
yes, sir. Hey, I just hope I did a good job. I really, this is one of my first audio visual type of conferences in this forum. I just hope and pray that I represented myself and people that feel as strong and devout about the constitutional values of this country. I hope I projected that well.
I think you did great, man. I mean, I think you knocked it out of the park, and I didn't see you go down any rabbit holes, which is great. That leads into better things, right? As we start gaining more viewers on this new channel, as long as it's up. But I think you knocked it out of the park. I'm excited for the next one.
I guess I missed and I didn't say, let's build bridges, not barricades. It's barricades that harm us. It's bridges that free us. So, if we maintain correspondence and we conduct ourselves gentlemanly as good men that we want to project to our children that we are, we should be that. Let's do that. Let's correspond with one another. I'm eager to work with everybody and getting this thing worked out for everybody.
All right, man. I'm gonna cut this short, and we'll talk on the backside. All right.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me, man. And if I can, God bless and long live.